Mediums help you create more detail, thin the paint down so the paint flows nicely. There are paints that are formulated where you don't need mediums at all. Gamblin does a range of paints that are quite fluid paints, and they've still got beautiful body, but you don't really need to add a medium to them. Obviously, if you want detail, like if you're making a signature or you're doing very fine branches of a tree, you might want to thin the paint down to get that detail. There are a couple mediums I've got here. This is a language solvent. Now, the solvent is a very highly refined turpentine product. So this product, they say you can even travel with. It's that low in toxicity and doesn't have that flammable rate that they're worried about in aeroplanes. So this product, it says, cannot be classified as dangerous goods. This apparently, according to language, is one of the top products on the market for studio safety. And its flash point is 75 degrees Celsius. So it's a safer studio. It's a safer studio product, and I think the evaporation is lower than normal, because what happens with turps is that they evaporate into the air, and even if it's odorless, you're still breathing in that turps. So if some people are sensitive, that's not great, even the odorless ones. GAMS will produce a medium that you can use for cleaning up your products, even as a medium in your paints as well, so to thin your paints. In your first layer of painting, you can wash your paint onto your canvas with this and get you a nice washy layer, and then you can come over with your thicker paint. That's as complicated as it really does get. I've got here what's called a liquol. Winsor & Newton do something called liquin, and these are alkyd drying mediums. These you can use if you want your paint to dry a little bit quicker. You're working outdoors. I don't have any with me. And the problem with these mediums is that they do put a bit of a gloss on your painting. So for instance, if you're doing portraiture and you're painting over and over and over something, because often with portraiture you'll be recorrecting and recorrecting if you're working from a photograph. So perhaps if you're painting somebody's eyes or their nose or their mouth, the mouth is the most difficult part to get right, and you repaint, the rest of your painting is matte, but the mouth is just totally shiny, and it's very difficult to even that shine out in the end. So I actually don't really like to use these mediums with oil when I'm doing paintings like that. I don't actually like to use oily mediums really at all. I don't varnish my paintings. Now, when you're first starting out, as I said to you, the less complicated you get, the better. I only really end up at this stage using one medium, and that's the Gamsol. When I'm plein air painting, I'll use a pure gum turps. I don't actually have any gum turps here at the moment, but I'll use a pure gum turps, which evaporates really quickly. And because you're outdoors, it doesn't matter, the smell doesn't bother you, you're painting, your first layer is dry quite quickly because the paint layer has all the turps has evaporated out of it, enough for you to put on another layer of paint within that time. So that is a really exciting thing, to go outdoors and paint with gum turps. Don't want to do it in the studio because it's really stinky, and I don't like to use any toxins or stinky mediums myself. That's why I've actually fallen in love with the Gamsol. It's really pricey, but as far as I'm concerned, it's worth it. I have here a lean medium number 1. This is an art spectrum lean medium, and I used to use this all the time because it's got a little bit of oil in it, so you can use it right through the painting process. Right, so let's talk about this fat over lean business, which comes up every time you read anything about oil painting. And there's a science behind it. When you do your first layers of painting, called your underpainting, or you're mapping out, or you're getting rid of all the white on your canvas. This could be an underpainting, could be your first layer of drawing, and it's done on a transparent gessoed canvas. and then I've just put my drawing in, and then if I'm going to come over that and finish this painting, I would just add normal paint to it, maybe with a tiny bit of medium if I needed to make the paint more fluid. And then if I was going to create thicker paint, I'd add paint without any medium. Then if I was going to glaze over any of it, I might add a bit of the oily medium to it, the liquid or the liquol, or your made-up recipe that you have. So that's the process here. This painting here, you can see that my last layers have got thicker paint and texture in them. So, and even sort of if you look at that orange, you can see I've added thicker paint. Now that doesn't have any medium in it, that's just paint out the tube. If I put thin darks over this will take longer to dry because it's thicker. The thin darks will dry very quickly, and therefore the paint, because this is still moving that paint, when it dries it's still contracting a little bit, the paint layer over the top will crack. That's why you add a bit of oil to it so that the paint holds together and is as flexible as the thicker paint underneath.